Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. We are continuing in the Mishnah Yomi, in the 10th and final parak of Sheviit, at the 5th Mishnah. And with the past 2 days, we've covered the topic of prozbul, the contraction for prozbuli ubuti, something which is a benefit for both the rich and the poor to allow lending money without the cancellation of Shemitah, because as Hillel Zaken saw, otherwise they would not have been lending money readily to be available for investments and business opportunities right before the Shemitah year, because the end of the Shemitah year cancels the loans. Mishnah Hey, prozbul hamukdam kasher. A predated prozbul is kasher. So if he had the date on his prozbul star a month early, that's no problem. That doesn't mess it up, because in theory, there are even less loans covered by the prozbul a month ago. If he's made loans during that month, they wouldn't be covered, so it's really to the detriment of the lender making the prozbul. If it's predated, it doesn't infringe anyone else's rights. A me'uchar puzzle, but if he dated it later on, that's a puzzle star, because he might have given additional loans. The lender's the one making the prozbul. He might have lent out additional money to other people in that interim, and having a later date, it shouldn't be covered by the prozbul, but now they're going to try to collect that loan based on the prozbul, and it's infringing somebody else's financial rights. Shtarei chov hamukdamin, but loan documents that are predated, psulin. Now, loan documents are the opposite. We're going to explain in a moment. Hamacharin kasherim, but if they're post-dated, that's kosher. So in the loan document, Rabbi say they had a shibud, which basically is a collateralized the assets of the debtor, that if he couldn't pay the debt, his land was mishubad, was up for grabs by the lender. So what's going on is, if the borrower had a field, but he had sold the field to a third party on the 1st of Nisan, and then he borrowed money on the 15th of Nisan. Now, that loan document should have nothing to do with the field he had already sold on the 1st of Nisan. But if they predated the shtar chov, the loan document, and then to before the 1st of Nisan, and then he couldn't pay the loan, then the man holding the document could go and illegally take the land away from the third party who bought the land on the 1st of Nisan. So predating a shtar chov, a loan document, could cause major problems for if he had sold land in the interim between those dates. But if he post-dated it, that's to the detriment. It reduces the ability to collect sold lands, because it's now post-dated. If he had sold something, even though normally the shtar chov would cover it, since the date was changed, it wouldn't cover it, and he won't be able to collect the land to pay the debt. The Mishnah continues, Echad love mechamisha, kotav prozbul kol echad ve'echad. If one person lent out money, it's if one person borrowed money from 5, he can write one prozbul for each person. Echad ve'echad. The chamisha lovin me'echad eino kotav ela prozbul echad l'kulam. If 5 people borrowed from one man, that man needs only to write one prozbul. The prozbul is really being written by the lender, not the borrower. Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Vav explains, Ein kotvin prozbul ela ala karka. We only write up a prozbul if the borrower has land. And the idea being, he has something that is mishubad, it is collateral to pay this loan. He has some land, so the loan in a sense is already collected, because land can't disappear. So if there's something there that he has, some kind of asset that he has right now, that the loan is linked to, it's not just free flying. Im ein lo, if he has no land, mizakehu betoch sadehu kol shahu, then actually the lender could give him a zuchus of a little bit of land. You can give him title to, a centimeter by a centimeter of land, and that's enough. He has some land, he has something. Haitalo sode memushkenitz beir kotvin alea prozbul. If the borrower has a field, but the field's being held as security for a different loan, it's already collateralized, you could still write a prozbul. It's still at the end of the day his, even though someone else is holding on to it to pay a different debt. It's in the pawn shop. Rabbi Chutzbis Omer, Kotvin leish al nechse ishto. You can even write a prozbul if the lender's wife has property, because the husband has some rights not to take his wife's property, but to make use of it, to plant it and farm on it and use it during the marriage. So he has some proprietary interest in it, even though he's not the real owner. And for orphans, you could write a prozbul for their debts on the property owned by their apotropos. The apotropos is like the manager of the estate. I think they call it a guardian ad litem, something like this, where he is responsible, financially responsible for managing the property of the orphans, because they're minors or they're not intellectually capable of managing it. So he is the trustee. So he has some relationship to their property, and we can write the prozbul based on that linkage.